Calathes, how come a lot of guests on EuroBONUS are from Portland, Oregon?
So there was only Mike and now Andrew.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, we
you didn't have many guests,
Trailblazer fans. Arvydas Sabonis,
Brandon Roy
making an impact. Brandon Roy for your personal reasons, probably. We always respected Portland's grassroots.
It's crazy. We kind of got a lot of guys either up and coming or who have kind of made their name. Victor Sanders, obviously had that incident at Venice, but then turned around, got MVP in Poland. Jazz Johnson is a younger guy, but he's second division Italy, got MVP last year. Kyle Wilcher at Venice.
I didn't know he was from Portland as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Domantas Sabonis was born in Portland, actually.
Yeah. Because his pops, I used to see his pops. His pops played with Damon Stoudemire. That's one of our idols because he's Portland born and raised. So, yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah.
We definitely the last on the coast though. Between Seattle and LA, it's insane.
No, you can't compare.
Yeah, I'll say it's insane. So we see that and try and keep up, but they definitely have it better than us for sure.
So we have Andrew Andrews on EuroBONUS podcast. It's good to have you here. Well-respected player among the Europeans, among the Americans. Short career in the EuroLeague, but a lot of people remember you, and of course a lot of people follow you in the EuroCup as one of the top scorers in the competition, so it's great to have you here. Augustas Šuliauskas as well joining me on the EuroBONUS podcast, and we're gonna introduce rookies, EuroLeague rookies that we're intrigued to watch for this season. Of course, we're gonna talk about the EuroCup experience and some other topics coming of it. And by the way, the second best league in the world, the G League. That's something that we can address for sure. But let's start from the game that is scheduled on October 1st. Mm-hmm. Andrew Andrews against Patrick Beverley. How do you try to visualize this matchup? Because I believe that Pat will try to stop you, either you or Cohen, and it's going to be a matchup thing for sure.
For sure. I definitely have looked at that game as a target game just to see, one, where our team is at, because obviously on paper, Hapoel Tel Aviv is probably one of the top teams in EuroCup, if not the top team. They signed a EuroLeague roster, if we're being 100% honest. So I look at that matchup just as seeing what he's going to bring to the European side of basketball. I know he's been in the NBA obviously for a very long time, but he had a great stint in, I want to say it was EuroCup before he came over. I want to say he won MVP before he ended up going to the NBA.
I think so. He played in Ukraine, in Russia, in Olympiacos, so he has the experience.
Yeah, so, but he's also been in the NBA for so long, and it's such a different environment and experience there, to where I just want to see how his mental is going into these games. But I'm excited for the matchup. I know he competes. I like to compete, so I'm going to be ready.
And Patrick Beverley nowadays in the NBA was like a meme material, I would say. Some crazy things were always happening. Him showing the picture of the foul situation to the referee, trash talking the guys, throwing statements on the media. What's the craziest thing you're getting prepared yourself for regarding this matchup? Trash talk?
Nah, I think
intensity.
I'll be ready
game?
for that. The intensity. I think what Pat Bev to bring is intense defense. He's a dog. I like to think that I'm a dog too. So see what it's like when we get in that cage. But also just not even Pat. They have Marcus Foster, who came off an amazing year out here last year. The list can go on and on. So I'm just ready to play them just because how talented that team is.
And regarding Pat, although he has, he creates all this environment around him that somebody may not consider him or treat him seriously, he's actually a cool guy. I've just listened to his podcast. A podcast I really recommend to listen, at least, especially for this season when he's in Europe, Pat Bev podcast. So he shared some of his first experiences in Europe, such as the traveling differences, taking private flights, charter flights in US and comparing it to the, commercial flights here in Europe. And from that conversation and from the intel that I had, I heard that so far he's been a really good leader. No star treatment, no bullshit, no weird things from his side. Even himself, he he addressed one situation when he was on the plane, and he gets the best seats on the plane, club decision. And, he was in this first row, a lot of space for his legs, and he was looking at his guys, probably he was talking about the bigs. Yeah. And he says like, oh, I see them, in the sixth row or something, being not so comfortable. So I just suggested switching places. And that's what he did, So it's a simple thing, he didn't want to show off, but, he's so far on and off the court. I heard that he's being a good leader. It feels that he's embracing the culture. He's respecting the culture, both in Israel, both, let's say, cultural things, the way the club is run here in Europe compared to the NBA. He's not complaining. So I think that's huge. And he's setting tone for the rest of the team. And the things I hear about Hapoel so far, they're really good. All the guys are clicking. They put their egos aside, because, it might be a hard time to accept a different role when you're going to the EuroCup from the EuroLeague. For guys like Caboclo, Motley, they're starters in a lot of EuroLeague teams. Now they play a center position in the same EuroCup teams. It might be a difficult adjustment for some guys, but so far, I know that September is the honeymoon period, but so far it looks that they're serious. So it's going to be really interesting to watch them this year.
Yeah, I would agree. And even on that, Pat Bev, as far as him being like a cool guy, I don't know him personally, but I could see that, like, for a guy who was a journeyman to get to the NBA and then to get to this place he got to in the NBA as a role guy, you know what I'm saying, and kind of build yourself up, give yourself a name. Then you come over here and you become the guy. You know what it's like to be the role guy, you know what I'm saying? And the role guy in the NBA is you're seeing all these superstars who have the mega lifestyle, you know what I'm saying? Not saying Pat Bev doesn't have a mega lifestyle, he definitely does, but it's scaled in the NBA. And so when you're coming over here, like he even said on this podcast, like he's LeBron over here, or he knows what LeBron feels like over here. So being able to have both of those points, being the role guy in a big market and then coming over to this market and being the guy, you can kind of take the best of both worlds and, like you say, give up a seat if you see someone 6'10" who's kind of cramped in a seat and you're 6'1" and don't really need all the leg room, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what brings the team together, you know what I'm saying? On the court stuff is going to be on the court, but what you start doing and how you are off the court will make on the court way better.
Will you trash talk him back, or you will start that?
For sure. I'm a trash talk for sure. Like if he says something to me, but like that's not even just with Pat Bev, that's anybody. I'm a talker at heart. So like when we get on the court, I'll talk to the ref, like I'll talk to the coach, I'll talk to anybody.
Who was the best trash talker you faced in Europe?
I really don't even want to tell this story, but I'll tell it because I tell him every time, and he got me. It was Kyle Weems.
Okay.
And this was.
I didn't expect that.
He seems like
he seems to be a very polite, when you're watching professional, from the TV. Yeah, a role model.
No, he is, but I want to say this was like either my rookie year or second year out, and we had played. And I want to say he was playing with Besiktas. And I don't know, some of that guy got going, and we were just going back and forth. I was balding at the time, and I was just grinding, so I didn't cut my hair at all. I was overseas, like, no one will see me back home. I don't care. And so I had, like, just the bald and the hair around, like the, I forget, oh, boy's name, the George Jefferson. And then he told me to cut the toilet boy off my head, and I lost it. I lost it. And wow. I was laughing during the game. Like that was one of the few ones that, like, man, I can't even respond. He got me. My teammates was laughing. That was bad. But every time I see him now, that's what I say to him, bro. I finally cut it off. Yeah, and I cut it off.
Man, we need to Google those pictures, actually.
For sure. I'd probably look up Best Balicus here. Us playing Besiktas, man. That was cold-blooded. Now you'll never see me like that again. He changed my life.
Wow, is
he still calling you like that?
Nah. You know what's funny is we ended up playing them again when I was with Bursa, and he was with Bologna. Yeah. And this is when I told him, because that was the game I had like 37 or something, or 39. But that was the game where I brought it up to him again, like, bro, you got me back in the day or whatever. And he was just laughing it off. And we just talk hoops and stuff. We'll still like trash talk and all of that, but it's all friendly. It's all love.
Yeah. Speaking of Hapoel, they just revealed their budgets. The total budget of the team is between 17 to 19 million euros. But the money they spend, based on taxation in Israel, at least how it works with Maccabi Tel Aviv, it should be around 7 to 9 million euros, which is basically more or similar to what 6 EuroLeague teams had last season. And the question I have for you guys now, where would you see this whole team in the EuroLeague picture? Where would you rank them in the EuroLeague? And at the same time, watching some teams like, with all the respect, Alba Berlin, Asvel, Paris Basketball, maybe even some other teams, where would you rank those EuroLeague teams in the EuroCup for the next season?
All the questions that start with all due respect.
I still respect them, but
I know.
It looks weird.
But probably, I think somewhere at that range, where they're, I would say like between 13th maybe and 15th, somewhere there. I mean,
a place where you have a shot at making the play-in, probably.
Yeah. It's hard to tell because it's still early September. You never know how your season might go. 1 injury, 2 injuries, maybe somebody has some kind of a beef inside of a team, something does not click, and then you have problems. But their roster on paper is impressive. They have scorers. They have outside scorers, inside scorers. They have guys that can defend. I love, Ish Wainwright.
Yeah.
Guys who can pass, guys who can, like Pat Bev, who can just defend and do whatever it takes. So you kind of have almost all the roles covered. And so I think even in the EuroLeague, they would be pretty solid.
That's how I see them as well too. Like when you look at their roster, like you said, they have inside scoring at multiple positions, 3, 4, and 5. Outside shooting, 3, 2, and 1, because Pat Bev has shown he can shoot it at the European level for sure. And then they have defenders. They have, on paper, probably now one of the best defenders in Europe on ball. And they have big bodies down low to protect the rim. And like when you look at the EuroLeague stature and teams that kind of do well in EuroLeague, those are the teams that do well. So I could see them anywhere between 7 to 12 if everything's clicking, if everything's going right, and they're the team that they're supposed to be.
The upside is huge.
Their upside is crazy.
How are you gonna beat them on October 1st?
How do we beat them?
What will be Wolves' way, to thrive in the EuroCup next season? Because it goes to the same question, what would be your top 3, top 5 ranking of the EuroCup teams for the next season? And I remember when I tried to go through the list of the teams, I'm like, okay, Wolves has a legit shot at being one of the top teams, I guess.
No, little correction. It was, I have Wolves in the top 5, and he's like, really? 5 minutes later, oh yeah, I can see that 4 or 5,
Lithuanian teams, in this conversation, because when you think about the top teams, it's like, okay, we have Hapoel, we have Valencia, okay, maybe Bakshehe here, teams from Spain like Gran Canaria, Juventud, they're always there, okay, but Wolves, they're not that far away from those teams, so that's an interesting thing to me.
That's why EuroCup, I think, will be, for us Lithuanians to have a team in Vilnius and in Panevėžys should be way more interesting than last year when the teams did not do that great.
Yeah.
But
I'm thinking as far as the EuroCup goes, when we prepare to play them and try and beat them, we just got to understand, no matter how deep their roster is, you only put 5 out at a time. So we just got to focus on whoever that 5 out there is and take it possession by possession, but also be ourselves. We can compete with them. I've been on the floor with all of them separately, individually, all amazing players, but we belong on the court with them. So as long as we keep that mindset, you know what I'm saying, I think we can battle with them.
What's your top 3, top 5? How would you rank those teams?
Oh man, top 5 in EuroCup. Obviously, I'll go with Hapoel. I got Besiktas.
Okay.
I have us, the Wolves. I like Gran Canaria.
Me too.
And I like their team. I like their setup.
They got Mike Tobey, right?
They got Mike Tobey. They got
Joe Thomas,
Caleb Holmesley.
Joe Thomason. Yeah.
Oh, that's a
really
solid
good.
record.
LBC, Alassane, Brusino as always.
Okay.
George Condit, who we very well know after this summer. Way better than most of the Lithuanians would want to know him, I guess. What else?
And then Valencia. Can't sleep on Valencia. Obviously, Chris Jones.
He will be injured though for quite some time, right?
I want to say he broke his finger or something, or pinky, or maybe he broke his.
But they signed John Montero as well. They have Costello, Sestina at the front line. Ogilvy, I'm missing Ogilvy actually. So that's another EuroLeague team.
That's one thing about Spanish teams that you have to give them credit for is they do a really good job of keeping core together, and then maybe adding 1, 2, maybe 3 pieces each year instead of just completely revamping the team. And you see that way more at the EuroCup level. It doesn't happen too much at the EuroLeague level. Like, only team that did that this year was Partizan on the EuroLeague level. Every other team maybe added 1, 2 guys. I think Bologna did it as well a little bit, added like a bunch of guys. Yeah. But the key to me is the chemistry, and the longer you can keep a solid group together, the better chances you have. So that's why you don't see too much turnover in EuroLeague, but kind of a lot of turnover in EuroCup. But these teams now that are in here have been together for a little bit.
Where would you rank EuroCup in the world's basketball leagues ranking, given the fact that the NBA is first and the G League is the second?
Man, G League's probably.
Now G League is the second, right? Second best league in the world.
So like
that's what I thought.
I get it. I get I get why Juan said that. Like, I understand it, just because like it's the wheelhouse of the NBA. So you figure all of the best players end up staying there. But one big thing he left out is a lot of good players is like, I'm not taking $30,000 when I can take 6 figures and more overseas and not have to deal with the politics, or at least if I'm dealing with the politics, I get compensated enough for my lifestyle to do it. So a lot of the better players are actually over here. And a lot of the guys who are still like trying to figure out whether they're even gonna make the NBA or if they can have a career overseas end up in the G League. And they're athletic and they can jump high, but it's a whole different ball game. Me and Kendrick was actually talking about that. I commented on a couple of his posts, and like, they don't understand if half of the guys from overseas came back, they would be out of jobs. Like, they would be looking for jobs. If half of the guys came back overseas and played in the G League, they would be looking for jobs.
And I think it's still, the high international level in Europe has way more attention. I mean, you feel like a star in Europe, while in the G League, I mean, how many people watches the G League? I mean, scouts and all that stuff. NBA takes all the attention. Here in Europe, I mean, you see the arrivals for the biggest stars. You see how they're welcomed. You see the fans. Right. So I think a lot of guys also kind of want to experience that. And I think once you understand that you can really have a nice lifestyle here in Europe, then you are like, at this moment, while the G League salaries are still not as high, why choose that over Europe?
Well, I'm not mad at it when you're supposed to chase your dreams, you know what I'm saying? Like, your money shouldn't really like sway you in that regard. So like, if it's your first maybe 1 or 2 years out, like, go chase your dreams. Try and see if you can get an NBA team. Maybe you get a couple call-ups. I'm not mad at that at all.
Yeah, exactly. But for how long?
But for how long? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a very short window in just sports in general to maximize your earnings. So you want to kind of like go where you're wanted and go where a place where you're valued as well. But I'm not telling guys to give up on your dreams. But now we're seeing guys getting to the NBA from Europe left and right. So there's definitely more than one option to do that. And I think some guys have figured that out. And now you're starting to see a lot of guys coming over here.
From the NBA opportunities, from that perspective, I could see the G League being probably the second best or the best platform to make it to the NBA.
Exactly.
For instance, at the start of the last NBA season, 50% of the players on the opening night rosters had the G League experience. From the 2022-23 NBA postseason rosters, 57% of the players had the G League experience. So I get it. But from the whole package, the level, the experience, the status, the skill sets combined with the game IQ, I mean, G League is far away from the EuroLeague, although you can find a lot of great individuals on the G League that would be great in Europe, and there are a lot of examples. A lot of great guys coming from the G League to the EuroLeague and becoming really important players. I agree. I can see that, but it feels like, a lot of G League teams, G League players, they're on a different agenda. They have different goals, so you cannot get the same team basketball, let's say, level out there given the circumstances. Here in Europe, guys are committed. Some guys can have goals to go to the NBA, to make it to NBA later, or to leap to another EuroLeague team from the EuroCup, from the BCL, but at least they're committed here for at least 1 year. So you can build a great level of basketball together. In the G League, a lot of great individuals, not so great team basketball, and at the end of the day, it hurts the whole level, the whole product. So I would say that EuroCup is probably should be ranked higher than the G League because of the entire experience, of the level, intensity, skill sets, basketball IQ, especially this year with all these guys out there. I would probably rank them higher than the G League.
Yeah, I was going to say G League is probably fourth. I was going to say NBA, EuroLeague, EuroCup, and G League. But even like that VTB league is no joke. With what they got going on, I know they have the war and everything. But some of the teams over there, obviously the top teams, they're pretty stacked. But I think you hit the nail on the head. The G League, like some of the top individual players, amazing. Can't take nothing away from them. But the way the G League is set up, it's a funnel house for the NBA. So they're creating a lot of just role guys, a lot of 3-and-D. Can you fit my NBA prototype system? We don't even need you to really put the ball on the ground. We need you to defend and run to the corner, up and back. And if you can get a couple dunks, good. That's what gets you a call-up, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of guys, if you fit that mold, they go there and do that. Then they try and go overseas, and they understand that overseas basketball is all the best players in college now on the same team, and you're going against them. You know what I'm saying? Like it's college on steroids, and you have to be like an all-around player in college to be successful. You don't really have to be an all-around player in the NBA to be successful. You have to be able to do one or two things. In Europe, if you want to be successful, especially as a import player, you better be able to do a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? You can't just be, I don't want to degrade him, but like a one-trick pony. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to play pick and roll, shoot off the pick and roll, pass out of the pick and roll, defend 1, 2, maybe even 3 positions, and do it every possession.
Yeah. The owners and the GMs are paying all that money for you to lead the team to do a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure.
Not to do like 2 or 3 things, because that's usually, I mean, now when you see the EuroLeague and those teams, from the Serbians, the Lithuanians, the Greek guys, the majority of them in those teams, they're like their country teams in the EuroLeague, they're doing their role players stuff. And all the foreign guys are basically leading the team. So
yeah, that's why we have issues on national team level as well.
Forget
in Lithuania, that's a big problem.
But not only here in Lithuania. I mean, the Greeks can feel what we feel. They have similar problems. Look, Spain naturalized Lorenzo Brown because they needed a perimeter guy. While before, they had so many great stars.
You know what I think that helps to make Pat Beverley's or other EuroLeague rookies transition in Europe smooth? I think that's definitely Genome that helps them off the court, because they offer a lot of good stuff, especially for the ones who travel a lot. It can be EuroLeague fans supporting their teams away. It can be just basketball fans in general who love traveling. And there's this thing, Genome, a virtual card, a virtual account that can help you to budget your trip. You can, easily take some cash out of it without any transaction fees or whatsoever. You can plan the budget for your trip and just create an account on that virtual card just for that particular trip. That's awesome.
That is awesome. And I know a lot of people are actually, planning trips or planning to visit away games in the EuroCup, whether it's, seeing Pat Bev in a different country or seeing those stacked EuroCup teams, or, planning to see those amazing atmospheres, that Athens, Piraeus, Belgrade is offering. And if you're traveling to those countries, you should just use Genome and as we mentioned, low-cost currency exchange. You can have free multi-currency accounts, different ones, in euros, US dollars, British pounds. That also helps if you are a frequent traveler. So you should just link your Genome card to an account using the currency you prefer, and you won't get charged additional conversion fees when you use local currency. So I think that helps a lot when you are traveling for the games. If you're following your team, or if you want just to see the best basketball atmospheres throughout the continent.
Yeah, it's easy to cancel or replace virtual cards without affecting your main card. It's also eco-friendly because there's no plastic or paper needed.
Exactly.
A lot of cool things about Genome.
A lot of cool things. They are the sponsor of this podcast, so you should go and check out Genome.
I go back and forth with just like friends, family, other basketball players, just about this just in general. It's like, to me, Europe builds system players, and the NBA or America, we kind of build like individual skilled players. And sometimes the skilled player can't fit into the system, and sometimes that system player can't get out and fit into a skilled world because now he doesn't have the makeup or whatever the reps he needed to have in order to do what someone from the States does. And then it's vice versa. Like sometimes there's people in the States like, we don't know when to back cut. You know what I'm saying? Like, just give us the ball. Let us create something. We can do it ourselves. But then you go into team basketball, and that's where it's like that. There's that sweet spot, and I think that's what get overlooked. A lot of the people who have made it, especially Americans who made it to a high level over here, found that sweet spot to where they do both, and that's a very dangerous player.
I don't know if we're going to talk more about what Toscano-Anderson said.
There was this timeout, that also went viral. During the timeout, this G League team, G League United, they were down by 18 against Unicaja. It was the middle of the third quarter, and there was this quote by Toscano-Anderson saying, "Our dream is not to play in the ACB. Our dream is not to play in the fucking EuroLeague. Our dream is to play in the NBA and make millions of dollars. What they are doing now is unacceptable." And, it caused another backlash. The first quote made the headlines. The second one was brutally discussed on European basketball media by a lot of Americans. Mm-hmm. Mike James, Kendrick Perry, even Evan Fournier.
The usual suspects on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. More or less. What were your thoughts, though, about this particular moment? Because I have mixed feelings, to be honest with you. Because to me, okay, I get the criticism the guy got after the first quote, saying that G League is the second best league in the world. But this moment in the timeout, heated moment of the game, you're down, you try to inspire your guys, and usually you don't expect great motivational speeches, during the game, especially at this moment. So the guy was just fired up. He tried to inspire his guys. And although I do not agree with his thoughts, I think that this whole case was a little bit exaggerated.
For sure.
So, I don't see that he was disrespecting, or his goal was to disrespect all those leagues, ACB and the EuroLeague. Again, I think that, a lot of times in some daily situations, at the heated moments, we do some, bullshit stuff. So this was just some bullshit quote by the guy who tried to inspire his teammates being really down. So, and that's about it. At least that's how I look at it. And I agree with Evan Fournier, who also kind of made the same claim that I don't see nothing wrong, but I don't see why it was perceived so bad by European basketball players or Americans in Europe.
I personally, I didn't see anything wrong with the video once that came out of him in a timeout. And I'm not close to Mom by any means right now, but we crossed paths growing up, went to a couple of college visits together. Even when he was at Marquette, and even his overseas background, I think he's only played in Mexico.
He never played in Europe.
He's never played in Europe. So a lot of people are obviously missing that point as well. You don't really know until you get over here. There's NBA guys who come over here and have to go back home because it's just a different level of basketball, and then you start understanding how good these guys really are. And for the team that they were playing, he doesn't even know how good Malaga is. You understand what I'm saying? So he is just misinterpreting what's actually going on over here. Kendrick Perry will be a top guard in the G League. You see what I'm saying? He is really good. If politics aside, Kendrick Perry could probably be a backup guard in the NBA. We're all journeymen essentially, like, we're all journeyman NBA guys. We just chose a different path. And right now, for his path, he's still chasing that path of wanting to be in the NBA. And so for him, like, he's right and entitled. Like, he can feel how he feels about that situation. Doesn't mean he's right, but I'm not going to knock him for feeling that way. You're supposed to. Like, you're supposed to motivate your team. Like, that's probably what inspires him as well. I don't know if he played great or not in that game. I didn't really watch it, but, like, when your back's against the wall, you got to find something to trying to get you going.
Yeah.
I have no problem with him saying that during the timeout. I mean, he was just motivating his teammates. What he said before the game, I don't agree with that, but what he said during the timeout, simple motivation, I think. And it got that reaction just because of what he said before, I think.
Yep, for sure.
And I just wanted to, I didn't see the game, but I saw some clips on the Twitter. Like, sometimes it's just enough to follow the good people on the Twitter to know what's going on. And so shout out for Eric Facet. I hope I'm saying his surname right. He posted some clips of how, like, the G League team couldn't handle, like, the hedging, the step out defense, which is kind of not there anymore in the NBA or in the G League because of the bigger spacing and everybody shooting threes. So, like, doing the hedge defense is super hard. And Malaga did that a lot. And just G League guys, because they don't have these habits, they didn't know how to adjust. They lost a lot of balls there, a lot of turnovers that led to points on the other side. So it was like, okay, I'm watching these clips and it's like just, again, another proof of how some things are so different in the in two games, you know. And so that was like, okay, yeah, in the NBA, you don't really see that anymore. Everybody's either in drop or switching, and that's it.
And we put the same emphasis when we're approaching the national team summer, when we're expecting to watch Team USA, you know, and we're talking about the rule differences, how it makes the game harder for them, and they might struggle, you know, overcoming those obstacles. And now we have this G League team playing by FIBA rules. So their players in general, they're lower level players, but these NBA superstars that they also struggle on FIBA basketball. So you cannot expect some greatness for these guys who also went to play for this team. Most of them, they're playing together for the first time in their lives. So you also cannot expect some quality. And what I want to say that this, you know, even though I'm saying that I think that EuroCup in general experience, in general level should be ranked higher than the G League, I also respect the G League as the platform, you know, to get more or better NBA opportunities, as Tad show, you know, for some players, it's a better platform to reach their goals, and I'm respecting what they are doing. So I think it's all about the respect. You know, we have to be respectful for different basketball markets like Japan, Australia. They're doing some good stuff. You know, they're growing steadily. They're different, but at the same time, we have to respect those differences. And we can always, you know, put our egos ahead and say, hey, no, we're the best. But it's not, sometimes it's not about rankings or whatsoever, just understanding the platform, why it's built, for what reason, what's the purpose, and that's it. And to respect the hoopers and all over the places, because they're not wars. You can find a lot of great players, I don't know, in Puerto Rico and Japan and all those leagues, you know, just being in different setting, different life circumstances that led them to play over there.
I mean, why you need to do some rankings? I know that gets clicks, but sometimes everybody just plays the way they feel it's best. And, you know, in the NBA, you play one way because that's efficient. In Europe, you have to follow the different play style just because, you know, the game is different. So I don't see, you know, why all the time you have to, oh, this is better, this is worse. You need that. The real basketball is in Europe, or there is no talent in Europe. And
all
talent
of it, to me, is just justifying where you're at. He's playing in the G League right now. I'm gonna say the G League is the second best league in the world if I'm playing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's doing what he's supposed to do, and like, he's obviously been in the NBA, so he's also maybe playing on those strings a little bit of politics as well. Like, give the NBA some push. His name's kind of been in the media. Now, if he plays well, it might be a call up. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Andrew, you mentioned politics for the third time in this podcast. What do you mean by saying NBA politics?
NBA politics is like, it's not the best. And you'll hear NBA players say this. If there's 450 players in the NBA, it's not the best 450 players. Sometimes, like, you can be a great locker room guy, but not the best player, but you have a relationship with someone who loves you in management, and they keep you on because you're good for team chemistry. You have some guys who are just right time, right window. The contract situations played out. They had extra money they could give, and you were there. You know what I'm saying? So
draft rights and
draft
stuff.
rights,
Yeah.
all of those things matter. So the business of the NBA is way more complex than a lot of people would think, because there's a lot of people outside of the NBA who should be in the NBA.
And a lot of NBA guys who actually cannot play in the EuroLeague or even the EuroCup or BCL.
Exactly.
Vice versa. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I mean when I say politics. And there's politics just in life in general. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's just something that it's there and it's kind of known, and I usually just talk about it.
What do you don't like about the NBA politics the most? Or have you ever faced some situations like NBA politics, either you or your close friends?
Man, I've experienced it when I was with the Hornets. Just contract situations going in. I ended up playing really well, but they already had 4 guaranteed contracts on the spot. So I already knew that I was going to get released at the end of the year or at the end of the preseason. But even when I sat down with the GM, he was like, man, like, we had contracts, like, you would have got a spot. It's not a matter of if, it's when for you. So that's a little bit of business, but also just seeing Mike's whole situation, how his played out in the NBA, knowing that he could have stayed and chose to come back over, you know what I'm saying? Because, again, like, we see who Mike is over here. Mike has a chance, not even a chance now, he's probably going to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He's EuroLeague all-time leading scorer. None of that happens if he stays in the NBA and plays 10 to 12 minutes a game. No matter how good you are, like, he's going to be a role player in the NBA. Just politics of it again, you know what I'm saying? They have there's going to be 2 or 3 superstars. Everyone else, you kind of need to come in, fill a role, and assist them. Now he comes over here, does what he's doing.
He's one of the 1 or 2 guys on the team.
He's one or 2 guys.
He's the one. Okay,
he's the one.
He's the one.
Like, if you're asking me, he's the one in Europe. Like,
Yeah.
I know everyone talks about the rankings and stuff, but, like, yeah, he's him for sure.
We should just have Andrew do all kinds of rankings for all the pods, so our social media team is like happy.
Nah, y'all gonna have me getting killed out here.
Since you mentioned EuroLeague, one of the main topics of this podcast was to introduce some of the best, some of the most intriguing. I don't want to put a title on this ranking, but the main goal is just to introduce the new players that coming to the EuroLeague. And I had this task. Each of us have to bring at least 3 names and to explain why these guys are worth watching. And there are actually all kinds of rookies. It's not like in the NBA, because Evan Fournier, for instance, apparently is the EuroLeague rookie because he has never played in the EuroLeague. There are guys coming from the NBA. There are guys coming from the EuroCup, BCL, some other situations. And actually, we kind of already covered some of the guys, like Corlick Jones, Vito Brown, Jordan Wara, probably somebody else. And
a lot of asterisks on this
I got
podcast
a
segment.
sleeper.
Yeah,
Very
so
good sleeper.
Okay.
you can actually start with your sleeper.
But don't
then.
start. No.
I'll just say one. I'll start with him for right now. I'll go Rajon Tucker.
Oh, okay.
And
because I had him on my list as well.
I think he's gonna surprise a lot of people. One, not just because of his on-court play, but he's one of those guys, and he's young, but he's really embraced being in Europe, and that's very hard to do. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're from so far away and you come over, you're away from friends and family. Being able to come over this quick and adapt this quick, he's going to be miles ahead of a lot of people just because of his mental space. And then on the court.
And have you ever talked with him about, how he sees the situation, how he approaches the situation, how he differs from the other guys? Because that's a big accolade, to put on him.
So I haven't talked to him about his mental approach, but you kind of see it in people's work. Like, people who don't know me, if they follow me on Instagram, they can kind of tell the type of guy that I am, or maybe the work ethic that I have just by my Instagram. With him, obviously playing against him, and then when we do talk, you kind of know that he's focused and he's dialed in. And then from an athlete standpoint, I think he's going to be out there, but he's probably the best athlete in EuroLeague.
Exactly.
And, like, we have Wade Baldwin, Mike when he was younger. Like we've seen Cody Miller-McIntyre. I've seen some athletic guards, but he's probably going to take the cake with that one.
I had the same exact quote. Probably the most explosive shooting guard or scorer that EuroLeague will have the next season. If you think that we're exaggerating, just watch some highlights of his last year in Venice. And I remember that watching those highlights, I saw him playing against Badalona, and I think that was the game when he did 2 consecutive blocks in a row. Yeah. So he is apparently a rim protector as well. The way he dunks, the way he jumps, wow. As soon as you let him run in a transition, you can expect the EuroLeague top 1 highlight of the week for sure.
Yeah, and he competes. So for me, like, I love people who compete. Like, every now and then, like, I'll get up on the court and you'll be able to look in someone's eyes and kind of see if they're nervous and things like that, or if they don't want to play. Like, the very first time me and Rajon played against each other, I looked at him, I think I called him like a linebacker or something because he's jacked or something. And he came up, elbowed me, I elbowed him right back, and I knew, I was like, yeah, I can get down with him for sure because, like, that's my type of people. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching him play.
Yeah, I also had him on my list. And just to add, he was averaging 15 points per game last year for Venice in the EuroCup, shooting 60% from 2, 36% from 3, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. I checked that he creates most of his points from transition game, and also checked how Virtus played last year. And transition points in this play types ranking was the second most used, let's say, way of scoring the game. So I believe that, they will find ways how to utilize him. Although I think that it might be, up and down experience for him. First of all, because I believe that sometimes it's harder to utilize your speed and your athleticism in the EuroLeague, which is more physical. They tend to slower the pace of the game. And if you don't get Rajon in the transition, it might be not as easy for him to score. And especially when they have depth in the backcourt. I mean, Virtus. They have Daniel Hackett and Payola at the point guard. They also have Matt Morgan, himself, and somebody else that I'm missing. Also, there's Isaiah Cordinier, who can kind of offer the same skill set, and I actually consider him as a better defender with the EuroLeague experience already. And I expect and I hope that Rajon will be able to utilize his body and athleticism on the defensive end as well. So there might be some challenges for him, in his road, but yeah, the potential, the explosiveness is worth believing.
Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be highs and lows for him, but I think he's capable enough to figure him out, because to me, the number one equalizer in any type of thing is your speed and athleticism. So if he scored most of his points in half court, in transition, I could see him this year, if he's on the ball a little bit more, doing a lot out of the pick and roll, because it's going to be hard to try and hedge him. He still can dribble, he can split, and then if he gets 1 or 2 feet in the lane, like, based off his highlights, you're going to have guys who are scared to jump.
Yeah.
And now that's where he's going to get into his playmaking, where he gets 2 feet in the paint. It's going to be scary. But again, it's just going to be interesting to watch him play. That's why he's on my list. He has a lot of ability.
That dunk last year that he had in Italy.
Insane.
It was against Brescia, I think. I don't remember exactly, but that was the dunk of the year to me in Europe, I think.
Yeah. That's going to be on the scout. On everybody's list. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's going to be people afraid to jump with him. And then there's going to be that one guy who wants to jump and challenge him.
Vincent Poirier, probably.
And if he puts him in the rim...
all over the internet.
Which he has a high chance of doing.
There are some guys in Europe that actually jump in the EuroLeague, but they shouldn't do that against him. Like, I'm talking about the big guys. Like, you're not going to block that. Yeah. Like, some guys in Žalgiris that might have been really great
They will get punished, for sure.
Yeah. Have you guys seen him in person?
Not really. I wasn't in that game in Vilnius when he was there.
He's not a little guy either. Like, he's stacked. Like I was saying, I was calling him a linebacker. Like, he's put together. Like, even like Matt Mitchell, who's at Zalgiris.
Yeah.
Like,
another beast.
Another beast.
Huge.
These are guys who are like stocky guys and move well. And those, to me, are like profiles that can do well.
Right.
Rajon
we have
Tucker,
already mentioned Matt.
Matt Mitchell and Semi Ojali. That would be the bodybuilders EuroLeague team.
Yeah.
All
You
five.
switch that and you switch all with those three and
Stanley Johnson now at FS, another
Right.
one.
Mm.
Remember playing against Stanley in college, and I was the first guy, and I was older. That was the first guy that made me feel like, dang, he's kind of strong. Like, I'm like, all right. But yeah, so.
Okay. Since you both have Rajan,
Yeah.
who do you have?
I will start with Nenad Dimitrijevic.
Okay.
He signed with Milano, and I think he has a big potential in EuroLeague to become great point guard. Milano are betting a lot on him. Like a lot of people, I think, were expecting another signing there. Mm-hmm. But for now, he should be starting there, I think. He has great skill with the ball, really great scorer, crossover. So he's not like really, when we're talking about Rajan, he's like super athletic. He doesn't have that burst of speed, but he's just skilled with the ball. His floater game is insanely good. I've watched a couple of games of him, and he's just gets a little bit of advantage, just stops on 2 feet or 1 feet near the free throw line, seems off balance, somehow makes every shot. And sometimes even his floaters are not like usually with one hand, he shoots it like with two. I don't know, like falling in front, jump shot / floater. I don't even know how to say it. Looks weird, but he's making those at super high percentage. He might not get a lot into the paint, but has a really quick release. Great 3-point shooter. I think his spot ups were like 1.51 points per shot in the VTB league. Okay. 41% from deep for the whole year. Defense might be an issue, but when you're playing for Ettore Messina and Milano team, usually that gets sorted out, you know. So I think it's a question of only, you know, adjusting to the EuroLeague, how big of a role he will get there with so many big names next to him, Shields, Mirotic, you know, okay, Armani Brooks, he's more of a shooter, but
Lidey, yeah.
Lidey as well. So how much he has of a ball, because, you know, I've talked with people and they're saying like he needs to get into the rhythm. Like you will have to live with his turnovers to actually make him more efficient. So, and Ettore Messina, you know, sometimes 1 turnover, maybe 2 turnovers, you're out on the bench. Doesn't matter your potential.
But probably he's ready to, you know, to go through a lot of turnovers. Having or signing both Bolmaro and Dimitrijevic as your backcourt players, go-to backcourt players, means that you're ready, you know, to sacrifice some of your nerves probably in expense of their turnovers. That's a bold move, actually, to go with the okay, Bolmaro is not a EuroLeague rookie, but he is still a little bit unproven player. So I don't know how it will turn out, actually, for Milan.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Milano are betting a lot on this guy. And I like this move. Mm-hmm. I'm really intrigued. I'm really excited to see him. But it's at the same time could be a really high risk, high reward move.
Yeah.
Who do you have next?
Ooh, Xavier Rotamays at Real Madrid. I don't know if people are aware of who he is in Europe.
Probably they're not.
No,
they were really surprised when they saw that he was signing with Real Madrid.
Is this your sleeper?
No,
Rajan was sleeper.
Rajan's my sleeper.
Oh, okay.
This guy, to me, has the potential to be the best scorer in Europe. I don't know if he can do that at Real Madrid, but I think just fans and just people in general will be very surprised by how smooth his game is, how easily he scores. He's Dwayne Bacon-ish scoring-wise. So I think he's going to be a refreshing face in Europe for sure.
Yeah. The only bad thing is that he enters the EuroLeague at 30 years old. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing, you know, the upside to become the top scorer in the EuroLeague many years ahead, it's probably a bit complicated.
I'm talking about just per season, like the Alfonso Trophy or whatever it's called. This year, like he could lead EuroLeague in scoring, but I don't even know if that's going to be the case because he's at Real Madrid. But if he was on any other team, like his scoring ability is up there with some of the top in Europe for sure.
Just watching him put the ball in the hoop is like, I could watch that for a couple of hours easily, just so smooth.
Yeah, he has a pretty game. His game is really pretty.
The guy who's also smooth offensively on my list was the big man, actually, Trevion Williams from Ulm.
From Ulm.
Crazy
Really
numbers
good.
last year.
Really good.
15 points per game, 63% from 2, 29% from 3, almost 11 rebounds per game, almost 4 on offense, 4.3 assists. And that's the key thing that actually persuaded Alba to sign him, because that was the main thing that Alba loved about the guy. And when I did the research, I kind of figured it out. Just regarding his passing ability, Trevian was the best passing big man in the EuroCup last season. He ranked 15 overall in the whole competition, had 70 assists, and the second best big in assists was Andrei Bolvin with 46 assists. So we're talking about at least 24 assist difference. And Alba loved his passing ability and his skill set, the way he sees the floor, the way he passed the ball, the way how dangerous he is inside the paint, fadeaways, even threes. It a little bit reminded me, not even a little bit, he reminds me of Luke Sigma. The difference is that it's Luke Sigma who can actually jump and dunk. That's the main difference between the guys. So, of course, the main difference or the main advantage of Luke Sigma is that I think that Luke is more matured in a way he played and displayed his talent, because Trevian is still super young. Actually, shout out to Trevian because he's celebrating his 24th birthday today.
Happy birthday, bro.
Yeah, he's still very young, very raw, but the potential is clear. I mean, the way he can dominate the game is absurd, actually. And I think Alba is a great team for him to grow, because Alba believes in him a lot. They're going to try to develop him as a foreman, which is interesting, but also makes sense. I know that some EuroLeague people, they have some skepticism about his size, if he wants to thrive as a 5-man. As I mentioned, they have some doubts about his maturity, his focus, but he's still super young. Alba believes in him a lot. They usually help guys to go through mistakes. They have enough space for them to grow through mistakes. So it might be a very interesting connection between them two.
I've seen him last season in Panevėžys, just dominating.
In person.
Lietkabelis, any player that was in front of him, face off, back to the basket, making some even threes. You know, he's not afraid to shoot. He's not afraid to try to do everything on the court. And I think, you know, in Berlin, he'll have a chance to try that, because they are one of the few teams in the EuroLeague that are not playing to win.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, we played him last year in the playoffs, and he's a good player. I think his patience with the ball, honestly, even his IQ, how he sees the game, is what's going to help him at the EuroLeague level. And I always kind of find it interesting with certain guys, like when they talk about if they'll be EuroLeague ready or not, because they kind of base it off teams that they're on and not the individual player, but who he is as an individual player. I think he matches up well across the board around a lot of the EuroLeague like 4s. Maybe at the 5, like they might be a little bit too big, but he's also a strong dude. He was an ox down there. So I think with time, like you said, he's going to be a pretty good player.
Yeah, I watched him play against Žalgiris in the preseason tournament at Gloria Cup. Actually happened yesterday, right?
Friday.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I'm lost in time. But anyways, I've seen 2 very different halves. The most challenging, and probably the one that illustrated the challenges that Trevian will go through in the EuroLeague. I mean, he was completely off defensively because he was guarding Brady Manick, hell of a shooter. And like for 3 or 4 times, he just let him shoot open, completely open. He couldn't he was lost in defense. And, that's the thing he will have to adjust, to be more focused on defensive assignments, more focused on scouting. Of course, they're going to scout the opponents, and he will do better. But it felt like it also affected his offensive presence because he was not calm enough, orchestrating the offense, passing the ball in the weird way, making turnovers. It felt like he was not comfortable with himself. In the second half, though, he was already better, passing the ball better, making some tough shots, playing his game. So that comes with his youth, I guess, in terms of the EuroLeague experience, and he will do better. But that's going to be a very interesting development program that we're going to see in Berlin next season.
Yeah, and I like kind of how you brought that point up with him guarding Manic, because I think those are the highs and lows of going from like a EuroCup to a EuroLeague. Is now everyone who's on that floor at the EuroLeague level can make a play, and that's what the part I was talking about, like with Europe being so different. Like everyone has to be able to play. Like you have to be able to do a lot of things. So when you get to that EuroLeague level, now if you have Shane Larkin coming off a pick and roll, and this is gonna be an old team, but Shane Larkin coming off the pick and roll, but Will Clyburn setting it and he's popping, what do? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or like and he would have that last year if he had to guard Kyle Wilcher on the 3-point line, probably struggled that night because you're not used to doing that. But then if you have Tessitore banging down low, probably going to be a better night for you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And Tessitore is a hell of a player, but it's just how it goes. He's really good down there. But if you make him stretch out or whatever, it's going to be tough. But if he can adjust to that, he's a heck of a player.
Who's your second guy on the list?
My second pick is 3 rookies I can't wait to see. I just could not mention TJ Shorts.
Yeah.
I love TJ, man.
Come on now. Like, I don't know how much introduction he needs for our viewers, for our listeners.
He's not a sleeper for sure. He's not under the radar for sure.
Yeah.
But he's a rookie.
He's a rookie. I just couldn't not include him. One of the fastest players in the continent. Mm-hmm. Plays way higher than his size. Plays with a heart. He thrived in a system that was awesome to watch last year. That's why I'm so excited. I mean, his mid-range game, elite. The way he manipulates in the pick and roll. He's often scoring from the paint just because he knows how to attack, like drop defenses and all that stuff. I know probably a lot of people will have question marks about his defense and three-point shooting, but I just cannot not include him because of the way he basically climbed the European ladder all the way from, you could say bottom. I mean, Ventspils in the first year in Latvia is not a high level.
You're going to say bottom. You know what I'm saying? It does get worse for sure. But like,
yeah, for sure. It can get worse for sure. But it's just,
if you start there and make it to EuroLeague, you can say you came from the bottom for sure. That's very tough to do. Very tough to do. A lot of people get those jobs and stick, not even with those type teams, but they stick in that area. You know what I'm saying? He would have went to VEF, and then from VEF maybe even back to Ventspils, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe go over to
Kalev Kramo, stay in the
exactly.
region.
You just kind of stay in those things. You kind of see people do that throughout Europe just in general. Like people tend to do well in Turkey, stay in Turkey. People do well in Spain, stay in Spain. So the fact that he's done well there, then went to Germany, did well there, then took Paris and did what he did there, like he definitely took the hard way to get to where he got to. And he's undersized guard. He had to prove it every step of the way because everyone's going to doubt him. People are going to doubt him going into this year. He's going to have to prove it again.
And
but
people
he's
will
a heck of a player.
People will say, now he has a different coach. Can he thrive in
That was one of my things. I said that as well, too. Heck of a player for sure, but how do you play with the coach now that doesn't know what you do best? Obviously, Thiago Splitters knows basketball, and he's going to put him in great situations. And they still have the same team, which helps a lot. But just seeing how comfortable he is with maybe a new system, different style of plays, or maybe if Thiago doesn't like certain actions that he was doing last year, how does he adjust? But like you said, he has the tools to be great.
It's like when you have these question marks like defense and three-point shooting, but you still make it to the EuroLeague and you dominate in all those levels, it just tells me that your strengths are at an insanely good level. Like it just cannot be any other way.
Wait, did you say that he played for Ventspils, right?
Yeah.
So he's probably the second best guy coming off Ventspils after John Robert Holden. Yeah, I think he played in Ventspils.
I don't know that.
Or in some
today I checked
Latvian
if
team
you played
sure.
when you were
Vefriga.
Yeah. But it was 1 year later.
Oh, because Augustus also played in Latvia. But when was it? Probably not that.
14, 15 maybe.
Okay. And Andrew was like in
18,
2010.
19. Yeah, 18. I'm gonna say
18, 19.
Okay. Wow. I see.
No, or 17, 18.
17, 18, yep.
And 18, 19, TJ was in Ventspils.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
think so.
Okay.
It was 1 year. I was like checking. Maybe you played against him in the first year.
No, I just have to check about John Robin.
The only time I played him was last year in EuroCup.
How was that experience, like playing against that energy of Paris and just crazy speed and intensity?
It's crazy because even to this day, like, I mean, that Barcelona team, we felt like we were the team to beat them. When we played them at home, we lost in overtime. Then we played them there, almost got overtime, but I tear my hamstring. Like, we were always a team right there with them. And then even when we played them going into the playoffs, like, obviously they won it all, but it was another tight game. And then they pulled away like late in the fourth, hit a couple big shots, but we were always right there because they kind of played not to our favor, but like, I'm an upbeat guard. I like to play fast, so like I don't mind them running, you know what I'm saying? And we had a couple of guys on the team as well who were like that. But their chemistry and team dynamic, how they played together was insane. That duo between, this is another one I'm like interested in seeing, between TJ and Nadir. Like, they really have a great chemistry, even though they're both fairly small guards, but like they're super electric and dynamic, and they have fun out there. They're out there just laughing. They don't really get too mad. Like, they're refreshing to see.
Yeah, but this whole coaching situation is my biggest regret over Paris, because if Coach Isolo was there, I would have higher expectations on Paris basketball team for their EuroLeague debut. But now, I mean, I'm happy for Isolo. You know, he gets a great NBA opportunity. I know that some people even think that he has a potential to become the head coach one day in the NBA.
Great coach.
Great person, great coach. You know, the things he did here with Bonn and Paris, they were incredible. But now, I don't know. I heard that Thiago is going to try to keep some of the things that Isolo, you know, installed in Paris before and bring some of the new things that he had. But that's a tough league, you know, to survive for the rookie EuroLeague coach. It's just, in general, rookie head coaching experience for the guy. With this team, you know, they're gonna have the smallest budget in the league, so that's,
they have like what, 11 EuroLeague rookies?
At least.
Players.
I checked all these rookies.
List that you
I had a
sent to
number
me.
11, but it didn't even include the guys who are like 19 or 20. So,
Okay.
but this team, you know, only Cavarius Hayes, Maudolo, and probably
Who
that's
else
it.
is there?
I think that these are only guys who have your experience. So,
I won't put this guy on my list, but Colin Malcolm,
okay.
another great guy to look out for with Paris. And he's not going to wow anybody on offense, but he's going to wow people with how hard he plays, and he's going to hit big-time shots. But then also, like, he's going to be probably Paris's stopper. I think him and the Ward. I don't know if his name is TJ Ward, but him and
Not
Ward.
TJ, but Ward, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ward. I don't know his first name. But yeah, Colin, they're both going to be. Well, he's definitely going to be like a
Tyson Ward.
premier guy for defense for Paris at least.
Yeah, so you had TJ Shorts.
I had Nena Dimitrievich and
And who's your last guy on the list?
My last guy on the list is Carlick Jones.
Okay.
Obviously, everyone's seen what he did in the
Yeah.
summer. Super dynamic player. I like watching guys like that. I'm interested to see how that works over there, because they also have a pretty deep backcourt as well. I don't even know if he's in the starting lineup. I think if he starts.
Usually he starts. At least from what I heard, Željko sees him as the main point guard, main scorer.
Okay.
Although, since you mentioned, they have a big rotation.
Okay.
A lot of guys can step up. So they have Ethan Lundberg, Dwayne Washington, Ntilikina. A lot of guys can play.
The shooter.
Vanya Marinkovic probably.
Marinkovic, yep. And then Sterling Brown.
Sterling Brown,
Bonga.
Yeah. So
A lot
yeah, I'm
of
excited to
guys.
see him play. I don't know. I think it's going to translate everything he did in the summer. I think it could happen in EuroLeague. Obviously, the coach he's playing for, I don't even need to say anything about him. So yeah, I think he's.
Yeah. I watched him play against Tortona in the friendly game. He couldn't miss a shot. Really, the ability to score was crazy. Probably we're gonna put him in the same list with Xavier Mays, you know, and then, I don't know, Dimitrievich. His skill set is just off the charts. And that's what I meant by saying EuroLeague rookies is a different thing. A lot of guys coming from the different environment, and like Carlik Jones is coming from the environment where he has a star potential in the EuroLeague. And he's in the right place, playing for Željko, playing for Partizan. So for sure, a player you cannot ignore, and you have to have him on the list.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
We spoke
that's
high
what I
about
meant.
him on
That's
the
what I
last
mentioned,
pod,
that
so-
this list will have a lot of asterisks because we had Carlik, Jordan Nwora, Vito
Brown as
Brown on last week when we were talking just best deals of the summer, something like that.
Best
Not-
transfers that we love the most.
I like Vito Brown a lot for Monaco. Played him when he was in Turkey. And obviously, I think Monaco goes as far as Mike takes him. But Vito is a guy that can help because he stretches the floor and he can shoot it at a very high level, but also he can put the ball on the ground and create plays. And they've kind of been missing that at that position. Dran can do it a little bit, but he's definitely more of a rebounder and a spot-up guy. But Vito is definitely can be an offensive weapon for them. And the more offensive weapons you put around Mike, the better chances they have.
The easier for him.
Yeah, that's scary, but yeah.
So
He's been seeing 3 guys in the playoffs, 2 seasons in a row.
So Mike should be happy, right? By having a guy who can stretch the floor for him, because that's what he was looking all the time, you know.
Sure.
Since
Even
he's
Adam
been with Monaco.
Furkan, Corkman is like,
Yeah.
they put some pieces around him. Like now, they're not gonna be like what Pan has done or Olympiacos has done. You know what I'm saying? But like they've put a few pieces around him to help even Nick, bringing Nick in to kind of relieve some pressure off of him. Now you'll see Mike being a little bit more, maybe 2. You know what I'm saying? Which is also going to help Akobo. And I think Akobo is going to also take another big step forward this year. I love his game.
Yeah, Nick should help. Nick makes everyone's lives easier. And if you take that ball handling duties from Ellie and from Mike, should be even easier.
Yeah, sometimes even defensively. Like, Nick helps tremendously on defense. Like, now that's one less guy Mike will have to chase around. I say Mike guards the best guys, but like, there's been times where Mike has to do both, where he'll even guard Shane and come down the other end, and Shane had Benoit guarding Mike, but Mike comes down and has to guard Shane type of deal. So now it'll be a mix between him, Nick, and probably Akobo, which will help.
How do you see Mike's and Calathes connection offensively?
Amazing,
Because
they already
that's the
done it.
adjustment that Mike will have to do, right? He will play with the ball less now, having Nick on his team.
But they did it at Penna.
Yeah.
When Mike was there. So they already had a good connection when he was at Penna. And Mike's played well historically in his career with good guards, even when he was at Baskonia playing with Darius Adams. And that was a elite scoring guard that he played alongside with. So I think Mike is known for being a scorer, but he definitely plays basketball. Like, people always talk about his scoring, but you look up any year you want to, he's probably top 5 in assists as well. So he really knows how to play the game. He lets it come to him. But just how he scores, he's so dynamic that everyone kind of focuses on that. But I don't really worry about him. He knows how to play basketball.
Okay, the last guy on my list is actually known for greatness on defensive end. This is Shaq Harrison, who joined Asvel. He's quite old as a rookie for the EuroLeague. He's also a guy who's 30 years old already, 7-year NBA veteran, holds the NBA career averages of 5 points, 2.4 rebounds, and 1.6 assists per game. But the story that caught my attention was the 2021 NBA playoffs. He was playing for Denver against the Portland, and it was the series when Damian Lillard just took off. He was scoring like crazy, and in the first 3 games, he averaged almost 38 points per game. So Mike Malone tried to throw something different, to kind of try to contain him. And he actually gave Shaq Harrison more minutes, and his main defensive assignment was, just to try to limit Damian Lillard, or just to try and change the dynamics of the offense for the guy. And Damian Lillard ended up scoring 10 points that night. He was only 1 of 10 shooting the ball, even though Portland won that game. But Shaq Harrison, got praised for his defense a lot after that night. And as a person, from what I heard from the scouts, they said that he's a really good guy. He can be your defensive anchor, although his 3-point shooting is the biggest limitation. He averaged only 28% from 3 throughout his career. But his defense and his personality, first and foremost, was something that, kept him in the NBA for 7 years, which is a hard thing to do. I wish he was on a bigger team in the EuroLeague, because I'm not sure, how much the case in Asheville for the defense will be, because they're lacking of something in offensive end as well.
You just praise his defense for 2 minutes and...
So, in another situation on our team, I think that his skill set defensively will be utilized way more effective on team's goals. But I'm just, that's one of my sleeper picks. Not sure if he's going to be successful in the EuroLeague. That's a tough adjustment for him to make, especially with his offensive limitations. But his defense is something worth watching for sure.
I'm interested to see it. The Dame story is crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely interested to see how that plays out. I played against Shaq kind of growing up, so definitely he is a defender. They also have Paris Lee over there who's going to be a defender, so I can maybe see that pairing as a backcourt, put Pili on the guard, him on the 2, kind of lock up other guys as, premier guys. Maybe is that their goal? So yeah, I'm not mad at that at all.
That's your Denver intel.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking. My last guy is Chimezi Metu for Barca. Although the one thing I'm worried is that they have so many people there in the front courts. They last year they already had. Wait, where is my depth chart? But Barcelona,
Parker.
Jabari at the 4.
Yeah.
There's
Vesely,
Hernan Gomez. They brought in Yusuf Afal.
Yeah.
And he's 4 or 5.
Yeah.
He's an athletic big who can give you that, rolling big, just dunk over people. So I can see that with KP there, with La Provitola there, makes his life easier, and just he can do so much stuff on the offense. It's not only catch and dunk. He can make a mid-range shot. He can make a free occasionally. He has some footwork. He's what I've heard and what I saw, he sometimes tries to do a little bit too much, and that's what cost him basically a spot in the NBA, a real role. And his defense is a question mark. But, in NBA, it's a different, bigger court. In Europe, with his athleticism, I think his defense can be better. And offensively, if he takes the right moments, if he takes the right shots, if he doesn't try to do maybe too much, I think he can be a really nice addition for Barca. Just one thing, how many minutes are you going to get? Because, okay, Jabari can play the 3, but you have other 3 centers there basically already. So that's maybe one thing weird. I can easily imagine him in other EuroLeague team getting way more minutes, probably.
I didn't know he was considered or had liability on defense. So I played him in college. He was at USC when I was at UW, and he was a defender there, like a shot blocker, rim protector type of guy. And also, in the NBA, I want to say he was guarding the 4 position. That's one of the hardest positions. He's guarding KD, LeBron,
right.
Them type of Giannis. It's a tough night for a lot of people in the world. So if you get labeled a bad defender trying to contain one of them, that's going to be a tough break. No one can contain them. So I think you hit it on the head. He'll come over here and be able to defend, be able to rim protect. One, because the amount of contact that you can use over here versus the NBA. Like you said, the spacing as well. And I think Barcelona is switching up how they're doing things this year. Just from some of the signings, some of the guys that they have, they're kind of going a little bit more with offensive firepower this year.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's going to be interesting because I think, Metu, offensively, he's great as well. So, I think he'll see some minutes just because they're trying to get more scoring. Even with them bringing in KP and all of that, they don't have typical Barcelona signings this year, if you know what I'm saying. A lot
from
of
Šarūnas Jasikevičius era, right?
Yeah.
Guys like Nikola Kalinic and stuff.
Yeah, and even La Provito is he was even the verge of it because he's more of a freelance player and kind of gets to it a little bit.
The only guy.
The only guy, you know what I'm saying? Now they kind of have a few different players who can get to it. So I'm excited to watch him this year for sure.
I found this quote about him, NBA about Metu, NBA forward, small ball center that really likes to shoot the ball and has just enough offensive skills to be dangerous for both the opponent and his own team. That's from his time in Sacramento. So I thought that was a quote worth sharing, really.
Yeah, it means he'll shoot you out the game. Stop gunning.
Yeah.
We have BN Plus members community. This is our subscribers that get some extra features as our subscribers. And one of those features includes throwing questions to our guests on the podcast, the guys we interview when we're traveling around Europe. And actually, I shared with the guys that you are going to join us and asked them to address some questions if they have some. And on top of our topic, there were a couple of those questions, for instance, coming from Borca, a guy from Belgrade. And he was asking about another, technically not a rookie, but a guy who had like only 3 EuroLeague game experience, Alexei Pokusevski. And his question was, he thinks that he is the first unicorn type of player in the EuroLeague. So what do you think about that type of players generally in Europe? By unicorn, he says, I mean tall, skinny players with solid technical ability and 3-point shot.
I mean, that would be Wemby, wouldn't it? Didn't Wemby play EuroLeague?
He actually played before he went to Metropolitans.
Yeah, before he went to Metropolitans, he was at Asville, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give him to be the first unicorn. But I'm like, he's talking about the tall 7-foot point guard, right?
Yeah, point forward.
Point forward, yeah. If he should be special, I like everything that he's shown as far as the G League goes. If he comes here and he does that, even his time with the Thunder, I like his game. It's going to be hard to guard. I don't really see who do you put on him. You can't really put a guard on him. You can't really put a big. So he's going to be a tough matchup. But he's definitely it's gonna be ups and downs for sure for him as well, because I can see certain matchups like even with like Will Clyburn guarding him, or so to say, or maybe a Justin Anderson's, like those. There's people in the EuroLeague, I think, on every team who can match that just off their experience and physicality. So he's gonna have to make an adjustment, but I think he's good.
I think physicality probably should be an issue number one for him.
Yeah.
Just want to see how he copes with that. To me, you know, in the NBA, he had a lot of problems because of that. You can have as much skill as you want, but if you cannot handle the contact, it's going to be hard for you to show that. So that's my biggest issue for him.
Yeah, and I doubt he will get consistent opportunities on Partizan, because basically nobody gets those consistent minutes in the team. At one point you can, finish the games to be a closer. At the another point you might not even play in the game, or you might miss the entire game and just then show up in the fourth quarter, to decide the game. So that's how Željko runs his team. And with the young guys, I bet it's always hard. It's always those young guys, they get a lot of lessons from Željko, and usually he's patient in some way, but at the same time he might be really hard coach on you.
I mean, last year we were in Belgrade for the derby, end of October, and 5 minutes remaining in the game in the fourth quarter, KP subs out KP. Željko subs out KP, and then I think Zach as well, and then Partizan goes on a run and wins that game. Yeah. So it's for Željko, it's all about.
And they win the game with Yaramaz, with Ponitka, I guess, with
Ponitka,
Abramovic.
Alexa, yeah. So it doesn't really matter your status on the team for him.
Sometimes it just matters about that night, how the game's going.
Right.
Can't control that. If you having an off night and then there's somebody who's having a better night than you, probably should go with the dude who's having a better night. Like, and, I mean,
coach
you can't really
needs to
question.
Win.
Yeah, coach needs to win. You can't really question him when it comes to that. Like he's the top of the top in Europe when it comes to coaching and winning. So whatever decisions he usually goes with, you kind of just got to ride with him.
And just the last question that I'm going to bring up from Yorgos Kurtis. Question for Andrews. No, this I will leave that out for the last one, actually. The one more question that I had was about Evan Fournier, who is technically a EuroLeague rookie. And the question
about his preseason
was, does the preseason performance of Fournier raise any questions for you guys? And I don't have stats. There's no such database that tracks all the friendly games, but I remember that he scored only in his second game. He just got 2 points against Fenerbahce last night, I guess, when Dorsey hit the game winner. And his first game, he was scoreless, but dished 8 assists. But anyways, there's certain level of expectations. People probably expect him score a lot of points, and maybe watching those preseason games, they are a bit confused. What would be your take on that? And those guys taking it slowly, to get into their rhythm.
Fournier is an NBA guy who just came over to Europe. So in NBA, their preseason is, you know what I'm saying? They slow themselves into it. And he's probably just so used to that's probably the same thing here. I'm not worried about Evan Fournier at all in Europe. I think he's going to be the player we all expect him to be. And that doesn't mean he's going to be great every night. Like, I think a lot of times fans kind of can get that mixed up. Like, he's still human. So there's going to be nights where he's going to have a bad game. Then there's going to be the explosive nights. So, yeah, I'm not worried about Fournier at all. I think his preseason is him just going kind of coasting, figuring out his teammates, figuring out his spots. And then from there, he'll take it on and go into the regular season with kind of like a plan.
He joined late as well, I think, the team, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm super patient with those guys. And the best example that I have is basically on the other side of the Athens at North, Kendrick Nunn. We'll remember his start in the EuroLeague. Of course, it was a different environment, official games, but the first game against Alba, he scored 6 points, but he was like 0 from 5 shooting the free. Against Žalgiris, he got only 6 minutes. He was scoreless, so it was also a tough start, but we all know, how it ended.
Right.
So I'm not saying that Fournier definitely will have the same level of success as Kendrick Nunn did, but it's just an example that you should all be patient, not put too much focus on the preseason friendly games. And that's a good point about the way NBA guys are used to the preseason. Basically, it takes a couple of months for them to get in some kind of a rhythm. And especially for Evan, who didn't have consistent playing time in the NBA, it might be even, different. So I'm still patient with Evan, and I think that he will be fine in quite some time. But the last question that I had for you from Yorgos Kurtis is combined with my idea. I remember that you told this story about calling Isaiah Thomas for an advice when you played in Turkey. And let's say all these rookies that we mentioned and we introduced, after this podcast, they're calling you, to ask for some advice, what to do, how to broach their EuroLeague experience. And I'm combining this question with the question that Yorgos had: how should a rookie react when things are not as when things go not as you expect, whether playing time is limited or the relationship with demanding coach is hard, or he finds himself thinking that he deserves more minutes over a veteran in his position? What would be your advice in this case and just in general for all these rookies?
Just control what you can control. A lot of times, we'll try and put ourselves 1 or 2 steps in the future and not be where our feet at. That's another great quote that I got from Abdul Gadi. It's always be present, be where your feet's at. So if you're a EuroLeague rookie, you're not getting the minutes you want to have, or maybe you have a good game and then the next game you don't play, you still have to do the same work that you were doing when things were going well, even when they're not going well. You know what I'm saying? Because those are things that you can control. And what you want to control is being ready whenever that opportunity presents itself again. And that's the thing about sports, thing about life in general. That opportunity might not come, but if it does, you want to be ready. You don't want it to come and you not be ready because you've been over there soaking about something you can't control. So I think just your mindset is definitely going to be the most important thing going into EuroLeague, because you're going to see some rookies who get to go in and it's just flowing because they went to either they picked the right team or they just had the right situation that year. So it's going to seem like they're leaps and bounds ahead and it might work for them. And if that's not your situation, you can't look at their situation and be soaking about it. You just got to control what you can control. And that's always going to be the work you put in, honestly. Just being ready.
Amen.
I think we have to end it right here on this note.
Thanks a lot for watching. Subscribe, like, join Beyond Plus community, and stay tuned. EuroLeague season is on the corner.
And EuroCup season.
Oh,
Come on
EuroCup
now.
season. With all the respect to our guest, the EuroCup season is actually the next week. That's why Andrew is also here, to present the upcoming EuroCup season, which is going to be super exciting. So stay tuned.